Tonight on Obscured Reality, join us as we dive into the mysterious lost civilization of Atlantis. We'll take a deeper look into the mystery of this ancient civilization, and we will find out if there's any truth to this story or if it's simply all a myth. Sit down, sit back, relax, and join us on our journey through obscured reality.
Welcome to another episode of Obscured Reality. Join your hosts, Mark and Mike, as they take you through a journey of the extraordinary, bizarre, and often frightening world of the unknown. Explore topics of the paranormal, UFOs, alien abduction, lost civilizations, mythical monsters, and other unexplained mysteries. Come along with us as we transcend into another dimension of obscured reality.
Welcome back to Obscured Reality. I'm your host, Mark. Joining me tonight, your co-host, Mike.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And your resident guest, Brad.
Heyo.
I almost said your resident evil.
Well, yeah.
I don't think that'd be fitting for you.
No.
I can think of some other people that'd be good for.
Yeah, no, it feels good to be back. Feels good.
Yeah, how you guys been doing?
I'm doing good.
Been a while, Mike.
It has been.
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Like a month.
A month? Well, it's been a little longer for me. Yeah, no, this is great. This is, I'm excited. I'm excited for tonight. I think you're going to like this.
We'll see. Our first story for tonight, our only story for tonight, Atlantis.
Ooh, Atlantis.
Yeah, some...
I'm completely unprepared for this one.
Okay, good.
Well,
good.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I don't know much about Atlantis.
It's a resort. It's a resort where you can get like drinks and have a good time.
That's right. They got a lazy river pool?
Ooh.
I think they have
I
a
don't know.
huge pool, huh?
Do they? I don't know.
Yeah.
I know it's pink. I've no desire to go there. Not to get sidetracked there. Sorry.
Yeah. It'd be kind of cool to go there, but,
I don't
you know.
I don't know.
One of my friends at work, she tried it.
All right.
But it was a couple years ago.
yeah, I've never been to Atlantis. I don't even know where you guys are talking about, but
Okay.
lost civilizations aren't really like a big interesting topic for me, but figured we switch it up a little bit for tonight. So it would be more informational. I did find, obviously, a lot of things I didn't know. So with that, I'm curious, what do you guys think? When you hear Atlantis, thinking of the lost civilization Atlantis, not
Absolutely.
hotel or whatever you're referring to. Well,
It's a resort, not a hotel.
Yeah,
Okay.
resort.
Let's just be clear.
Well, since Brad's laughing, we'll start with him. What do you think of when you hear Atlantis, the lost civilization?
I'm going to be
Atlantis?
completely honest. I think the resort has completely abolished the Atlantis lost civilization in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
To be completely honest with you. This is going to be a brand new refresher for me.
Yeah.
I'm 100% honest with
Do
you.
you know anything about Atlantis? Or
Maybe it'll come back to me as you're talking, but as of right now, I couldn't tell you a single thing about it.
So if I just walked by you on the street, let's say I knew you at work, just a little, you know, and I was talking about Atlantis, like what comes to your mind besides the resort?
I swear to you, that's all that comes to my mind. I honestly.
Well, I guess more what I'm getting at is real, not real type deal.
I'd kick it to Mike. I have nothing.
Okay.
I'm being honest with you. That's what I'm
yeah,
hearing, right?
no,
When
that's
I
good.
think of Atlantis, I picture, like an ancient civilization that was at one time thriving and had, a lot of, people inhabiting the area.
Mm-hmm.
And that at one point it went underwater. It was submerged.
Right.
I don't know if that was, just due to melting glaciers and sea level rising, or I'm assuming it was probably like a coastal community and, rise of sea level basically took it underneath the ocean, and it's been lost ever since. And, there's always these, I don't know if they're, ancient myths or stories about the civilization that was lost. And, as far as I know, we don't really know if it existed or not. Although I'm assuming there's probably a lot of civilizations that were, submerged under the water over years. Even there's parts of California desert that were at one time underwater. So when
probably recently in this last rain
over the years of ice ages,
right?
The level of sea level, or the level in the water, has changed tremendously, and it goes up and down. When you have the glaciers, when they're all holding up all the water, the sea level lowers, and a lot more land is exposed. So they may have been, and that could last for thousands of years. So they could have set up a civilization and been thriving, and then melting of glaciers and water level rises and gone.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I think.
Right away when Mike was talking, I know exactly what it is now.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, yeah. When you first started, the first 50% of what you said kind of came off as you're under the impression it's factual. The second half led me to believe that you're under the impression that it's could be factual, but definitely
because
most likely mythological.
Factual, I believe it could happen. I believe there are civilizations that probably is the case.
Of course.
But was there an actual city called Atlantis, or what we're calling Atlantis? I don't know.
Right.
But I do believe that is a possibility of happening, and it probably did.
All right. Yeah, well, I never knew. I mean, I've never had an interest in Atlantis. I mean, I've read a little bit here and there, but it's always been along the lines of, oh, this group's out looking for Atlantis. This group's out looking for Atlantis in the ocean over here. This one's in the ocean over here. This one's on land. They think it's here, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. I never really knew mythological or factual. I was just Atlantis. Okay. We'll find it one day. I maybe assumed it was probably a real thing. Yeah. I've just never looked into it.
I also think of, this might be a little weird, but I think of things like Aquaman.
Yes.
Yes. And it's like, Aquaman with his trident, and he's like cruising around and kind of living in that lost city, like under the water,
Right.
He's like inhabited it now.
Does he spear the Little Mermaid?
No, Ariel still lives. Come on.
Well,
it's just what comes to mind.
Yeah.
We did have a question from one of our last shows about mermaids and fish. And Mike, you remember now, if there were no fish and like the last thing left to eat was like a mermaid, I don't even know how we phrased it last show, but
that's not the question I was thinking of.
Would you eat a mermaid?
No, there's no beef. There's no pork. There's no is this like a starvation?
I don't even like fish.
Is this a starvation thing?
Right.
Like, are we talking like eating? Like,
no,
I don't want to go down this road.
It was just, would you ever eat a mermaid? I forgot how the conversation went, but
that could go many ways when you say eat a mermaid. Yeah,
you should go back and listen to that. I text you. I text you where to forward to. Just go to there and start from there. And
I need to brush up on my.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
What's up?
He's thinking of a different question.
Mike's
I'm thinking of a completely different question, but I'm not going to say it on camera.
Why?
Because it's nasty. We were bad. I don't even think we said it on camera.
You guys aren't bad. You don't even swear. I haven't heard you guys swear.
Almost 100% we left it.
All right, so tell us about Atlantis.
Yeah, let's get into Atlantis here.
Yeah.
So this tonight's gonna be more informational, I guess. We're not gonna be.
Yeah.
UFO's not going to come flying out of the water and Bigfoot swats it out of the sky or something. And Loch Ness eats Bigfoot, but he might eat a mermaid because they swim. So Atlantis is a fictional island, completely fictional. It's mentioned in an allegory on the hubris of nations in Plato's work. Yeah, I forgot to mention, some of this might be a little boring.
Hey, we're here for it. We're here for it.
But it's more, like I said, informational, but kind of give you a background on where it's showed up over time in writing and whatnot. In a couple of his works, Timaeus and Critias, wherein it represents the antagonist naval power that besieges ancient Athens.
Okay.
So I'd say I didn't know that, but I didn't know probably 99% of this. So probably right there along with you. ancient Athens, the pseudo-historic embodiment of Plato's ideal state in the Republic. I believe that's another one of his works. In the story, Athens repels the Atlantean attack, unlike any other nation of the known world, supposedly bearing witness to the superiority of Plato's concept of a state. The story concludes with Atlantis falling out of favor with the deities and submerging into the Atlantic Ocean. So obviously this is just written in Plato's work. We already see deities, so gods, things like that, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Which could have a big role to play in Atlantis. Plato's vague indications of the time of the events, more than 9,000 years before his time. Very clear, completely fictional right there. He's making it take place 9,000 years before him, right? In the alleged location of Atlantis, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, another one of his writings, I believe, gave rise to much pseudoscientific speculation. So, right there at the beginning, we already see there's starting to become some speculation on the location of it, as if it's real, 9,000 years before Plato's time,
Right. Yeah.
So you can already see a beginning. As a consequence, Atlantis has become a byword for any and all supposed advanced prehistoric lost civilizations and continues to inspire contemporary fiction, from comic books to films. While present-day philologists and classicists agree on the story's fictional character, there's still debate on what served as its inspiration. Yeah, I wonder, right? But when he's clear that it's 9,000 years before his time,
right,
I'm like, okay. I mean, you're still looking for inspiration, but you still see the beginning of they're looking for some, almost like they're looking for some truth,
Yep. Agreed.
Plato's known to have freely borrowed some of his allegories and metaphors from older traditions, as he did, for instance, with the story of Gyges, Gyges. This led a number of scholars to investigate possible inspiration of Atlantis from Egyptian records of the Thera eruption, the Sea People's invasion of the Trojan War, sorry. So they're just trying to draw his inspiration to a few of those things. There may be more, who knows. Others have rejected this chain of tradition as implausible and insist that Plato created an entirely fictional account. 9,000 years before his time. An entirely fictional account drawing loose inspiration from contemporary events such as failed Athenian invasion of Sicily in 1415 to 1413 BC, or the destruction of Helike in 373 BC. I don't know anything about any of those, but they're a long time ago, right? you haven't heard?
No, I haven't heard of any of that stuff.
Okay.
For sure.
The only primary sources for Atlantis are Plato's dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, which we mentioned before. So you already see the early workings in people's brains.
Oh gosh.
Inspiration, and out of that, it almost sounds like a conspiracy theory being born, but it's just not a conspiracy, right?
Right.
Speaking of which, we have some things to talk about. The clairvoyant Edgar Casey, you've heard that name. I've heard the name.
I've heard the name,
Edgar
but
Casey.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it.
No. It's a popular name. I don't know why. For some reason, when I hear Edgar Casey, I think serial killer. I'm not.
To be a serial killer, you need all three names. You need like the first, middle, and last name. John Wayne Gacy.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
True, but most serial killers, 9 out of 10 of them, you'll see all three. That's what I think of when I hear serial killer.
So Edgar Casey spoke frequently of Atlantis during his life readings. He claimed that many of his subjects were reincarnations of people who had lived there. by tapping into their collective the Akashic records. I think I've heard of that before, but it doesn't matter because I don't know anything about it. The Akashic records, a term borrowed from theosophy. Casey declared that he was able to give detailed descriptions of the lost continent. He also asserted that Atlantis would rise again in the 1960s, sparking much popularity of the myth in that decade, and that there is a hall of records beneath the Egyptian Sphinx.
I have a question.
Which holds the historical texts of Atlantis. Proceed.
So, in that last sentence or so that you said, was Atlantis considered were they talking about it as a whole continent? Or is it just like, because I heard you say like on there that the continent of Atlantis or something?
Let's see. Casey declared that he was able to give detailed descriptions of the lost continent.
Wow. Because, how many continents are there? 7?
Correct.
7 continents, right?
Yes.
So, a continent is a very large body. So I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Like even if it's a fictional.
Who knows how they referred to continents back then, though?
Yeah.
And the size,
Because to me, I could totally imagine like a civilization, like say something the size of like a county falling underwater or, getting submerged underwater. But
right.
A continent. That to me, I'm thinking of something like, the size of North America, South America.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. It all comes down to the terminology, the meanings of the terminology in that day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So, maybe they could look at an island off the East Coast and call that a continent.
Additional on that.
No.
Because that was the first time I heard it and it just like.
Yeah, I was thinking city. I
was like,
just like you.
Well,
maybe.
He claimed to have been able to. He claimed that many of his subjects were reincarnations of people who had lived there. So he had people under him, right?
Yeah.
And he believed that they were reincarnations of people who lived in Atlantis. By tapping into their collective consciousness, Casey declared that he was able to give detailed descriptions of the lost continent. So you're talking about kind of what's it called? They try it a lot with the whole alien abduction thing, remote viewing.
Right.
Maybe not with alien abductions, but remote viewing is almost kind of like what that sounds like. But he's just saying basically, Brad, I can read your mind.
Oh,
you're thinking of some chick you met in New York. I can picture her.
You can get him in trouble. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I was going to say.
I don't even know if you've ever been in New York.
I have, and I'm good. Yeah, I have, and I'm good. Yeah.
Good after meeting her.
I'm good after being there one time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's all it is. It sounds like he's just a mind reader is almost how it comes across to me. But I don't know much about Edgar Casey.
Okay. Never heard of him.
Yeah, so I've heard the name, but don't know. So that's pretty much it with him. A continental drift became widely accepted during the 1960s, and the increased understanding of plate tectonics demonstrated the impossibility of a lost continent in the geologically recent past. Most lost continent theories of Atlantis began to wane in popularity. So you see that 1960s pop up with Edgar Casey. Well, he said it would come up again in the 60s, which is interesting that the continental drift and the impossibility of Atlantis became a thing in the 60s.
I've seen a lot of studies on continental drift, and I've seen a lot of maps where they kind of map it out, like where it's been and where it's going. And I've never, never heard of anything where they're like, losing a continent. I understand this is a fictional,
right?
Story that we're talking about.
If you had a rise in water,
yeah, I've never seen a theory where a continent has disappeared. Be there being submerged or whatever.
Right.
But
One of the proposed explanations for the historical context of the Atlantis story is a warning of Plato to his contemporary 4th century fellow citizens against their striving for naval power. Just a story. Hypothesis for locations of Atlantis. There have been dozens of locations proposed for Atlantis to the point where the name has become a generic concept, divorced from the specifics of Plato's account. This is reflected in the fact that many proposed sites are not within the Atlantic at all. I am missing something over here. Oh, Mike's getting wasted tonight.
Oh, yeah, with this sparkling water.
Water.
Pause that right there. Your phone is off.
No cussing, Mike.
Well, that's not good.
I see me.
Oh, yeah, because the reflection.
So that means we're not recording.
Maybe.
Oh, looks like you're not going to be in this episode, which is a bummer.
Well,
you're the one contributing.
He's still
he's
here.
not recording.
Nope.
God damn it.
Wow.
You saw me hit that button.
Yeah, he's got some recording of him. Let's see where it stops. He's going to play it.
If you want to
Hit record. Hang on.
record.
So that's what happened.
So it was already recording. So he must have started recording it when the first time he said go a clap.
That's correct.
But none of the other ones were recording.
That's correct.
So then...
Okay, everybody, make sure you're recording.
Well, we can
Okay.
see yours. We can only... You are recording yours.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Welcome back to Obscured Reality. Joining us again is Mike.
I'm still here.
No need to restart that little technical difficulty with the video there.
No.
Okay, so Mike's here.
Well, I've always been here. It's all right. You know what? It's just when I'm talking, just have a picture of you and Brad on. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's no big deal.
Maybe. Okay, so location hypothesis is where we left off.
Got it.
All right. It's a good thing I get great cues. Like, I always know when something's up because I see someone, I either see or hear someone snickering, and it's perfect because it breaks it up for me.
What it was I was twisting it. It was all...
He was trying to be as careful.
You know.
And we already know you're going to be mad at us for wearing scratchy jackets because you've gotten mad at us before.
Oh,
Or you actually got mad at him before.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
It picked everything up. Sounds like shit.
All right.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear
Let's
it.
wrap
I didn't
this-
hear it at all when we were doing the video.
Not surprised. Not what you just
No, I
said.
know.
Something else.
Let's go.
So there have been a dozen locations proposed for Atlantis.
Yeah, it's called the Bahamas. That's where the location is.
Well, we actually already read that. It's not in the Atlantic at all, as the name might suggest.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I get because it starts with an A. I get.
Well,
Atlantis.
Atlantis. I kind of always thought Atlantic, but then again, I never really cared. Few today are scholarly or archaeological hypothesis.
What's undefined?
Really? Does that make sense to you?
Well, no, it doesn't make sense at all. But if you're reading it, then-
right, yeah. No, it doesn't make sense. Few today are scholarly or archaeological hypothesis, while others have been made by psychic. They were referring to something right before it. So
Gotcha.
that was a copy and paste. It was a reference to what was right before it.
So did you just admit to plagiarizing it? Is that what you just did there?
Well, I'm not putting anything up on screen.
Yeah, no, I'm just messing with you.
I pick and choose what's going in.
I'm messing with
But
you.
I have stated early on, a lot of what I get's from Wikipedia.
Absolutely. There's no better way to do it.
But
I mean,
Wikipedia, that's so good. Yeah.
I mean, that's what this whole thing's about. We're going to take a story. We're going to read about it. We're
Yep.
going to explore it. We're going to learn about it.
Yep.
That's what we're here for.
Brad's referencing the illegitimacy of Wikipedia, which I don't
very much so.
I don't agree or disagree. However, I will say, which I've said before, 95% of everything I've ever read off Wikipedia, which I go to because it's quick for when I want to look something up, right?
I'm not arguing that. Yeah.
95% of what I've ever read has always been factual. I've never seen a problem other than a couple times.
Mine too. I would agree with that. Yeah, I would
if
agree with that.
anything, the most I've seen is just some newer facts being left out. because they're newer. It hasn't been updated. You know,
Yeah,
I've
no, I
always
agree with
heard the whole, you know, Wikipedia. I'm like, I've never had an issue, so I don't know.
Maybe,
Oh,
maybe
I think it's
fix
good.
it.
Yeah, but
I mean, we're talking about a fictional story as well anyway. So, I mean, Wikipedia is as good as any source to get info for a fictional story.
True. While others have been made by psychic, example, Edgar Casey, so he was a psychic, or other pseudoscientific means. Many of the proposed sites share some of the characteristics of the Atlantis story, such as water, catastrophic end, relevant time period, but none have demonstrated to be a true historical Atlantis. In or near the Mediterranean Sea would be one of the general locations.
Okay.
So under the Mediterranean Sea, we have, for islands, Sardinia, Crete, Santorini, Sicily, Cyprus, and Malta.
Yep.
I'm sure you've heard of most of those.
Yep.
Land-based near the Mediterranean Sea, Troy.
That was a great movie, by the way.
Troy.
Troy.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I'll say it. Yeah.
With Brad Pitt.
Troy,
Awesome movie.
Tartessos, never heard of it, and Tantalus, Atlantis, Tantalus. Change a couple letters around. There you go.
There you go.
In province, that's in the province of Marlisa, Turkey. Israel, Sinai. We have Canaan, so these are all in Israel. Northwestern Africa, which is not in Israel.
No. Yes.
So just some of the sites. In the Atlantic Ocean, we have the Canary Islands, Madeira Islands, which are west of the Straits of Gibraltar. We've all heard of, but don't know where that's at. Right?
Not without a map.
Nope. And the Azores. Stone Age Ireland. I wouldn't have never have guessed that.
Right. Yeah. No.
In Europe, we have Doggerland in the North Sea and Sweden. So that is it on Atlantis. So
my thoughts are, I do believe that it's possible. Now, I don't know about like a whole continent, but I do believe there could be a civilization that could be lost underwater, like I was saying in the very beginning of our podcast.
right.
And I like the story. It's a good story, and it's probably happened, and it probably will happen again.
Right.
You know, you're going to find, I mean, even if it's just the structures in which they lived,
Yeah.
whether it could be like, you know, from melting glaciers, could slowly, you know, raise the water level, and it could start encroaching into where they're living, and they might have to just move out because the water level's coming up. So I don't know that people are actually, you know, dying because of this. I mean, because it could happen over the course of 20 years.
I think they just die off over time. They probably move.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
if Atlantis was real and it was covered by water, like you said, that's a slow process. They would have just moved to a better location. You know,
like assuming for a minute that, you know, I don't know whether it is or isn't, but assuming that global warming is real and that eventually more of the icebergs and stuff in the you know, in the Arctic are going to, you know, start melting, sea levels are going to rise. We may be seeing a large portion of, you know, the Pacific coast and the Atlantic coast, places like Florida. Florida might end up being like
the
lost civilization.
The Dingleberry of the United
You
States,
know,
right there,
and
gone.
a million years from now,
Yeah.
there might be rumors about, there used to be this place called Florida, you know, but it's not there anymore.
Florantis.
Because Florida is at a very low level, and it's a very small. Well, we all know what Florida looks like.
Not
you
so
know.
wide.
Yeah, not too wide, and they've got a really good chance of.
I mean, they're already swamped
losing.
everywhere.
Yes.
You know,
So something like that. I mean, you know, there could be in 10,000 years or a million years, you know, there might be like, you know, a rumor of, hey, there used to be this place called Florida,
yeah,
but nobody knows for sure. Of course,
Yeah.
we keep better records now, but.
yeah. Did you have something to say? I think you were starting right.
I
when
was
Mike
going
did
to.
too.
Yeah. No, I agree with Mike. I not only think it's possible, I hope it is. That's just cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's cool. I mean, I don't want to see Florida go down, but I think it's cool. Like seeing, I don't know if anybody's been to the Mayan ruins in Mexico. Like, it's super cool to see that kind of stuff, right? Like that old, like how they built it, where they went, like all that stuff. How it's just, I don't know. I think it's really, really neat.
Yeah,
really neat.
It'd be cool if they found it. However, it would have never been called Atlantis because Plato even admits it was 9,000 years prior. He would have had no clue, right? So,
and that's fine.
They're gonna find. They're finding lost cities all all the time.
Yep.
You read it in the news once or twice a year.
Only lost city I've ever been to has been Pompeii, and we talked about that on a previous episode. But something like the size of Pompeii was big. I mean, it was definitely the size of like a regular city that you would see.
Yes.
Right.
And I walked around that place for 8 hours and didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, they didn't know that existed until someone, stumbled upon it, started uncovering, and then they, worked for many years to uncover the city.
Right.
So it was lost for quite a long time.
I don't
figured it out.
Yeah, I personally, I mean, I don't think Atlantis is at all a real place. Clearly, it's just a myth. It comes from him. I don't doubt there's plenty of lost civilizations out there. I mean, that's a fact.
Yes.
But they're never going to find Plato's because it never existed. Unfortunately. But fortunately for the Atlanteans, because they never were, so they never had to die.
They didn't suffer. Right.
I think that's good, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. You're right. It was educational. A very educational podcast.
More so educational than anything.
Way more than I ever knew.
Yeah.
Way more.
I start typing this stuff up and looking. I'm like, so far I've always found something that I was like, oh wow, I never knew that. I never even contemplated that.
Yeah. I think
same with this. I never really knew it as fact or fiction. Just if anything, probably more so fact.
Yeah.
Maybe 51% versus 49%.
I know there's been a lot of attempts for people to try and find Atlantis. I've seen like documentaries and shows where they try to uncover, the mysteries and secrets of Atlantis, things like that.
And that doesn't help keep it as fiction. That just cements it more in people's minds as fact, especially when you have people who, I'm interested in certain topics. You're interested in different topics. You're in different topics, right? I might not be interested in lost civilizations, so I might see that and see a movie portraying it as fact. And Jones is trying to find Atlantis, and I might read into that as possibly a real place when it never really was. So it adds to the myth, the lore, and the possibility of it. Not possibility, but people seeing it as fact and it becoming a thing over time. Which you saw early on, where that started to begin.
Yeah, I think for me, not to detour us too much, but I really enjoyed this episode. Honestly, I think for me, I love to learn, which is why I want to be here. Resident, part-time here and there. But I think learning, it's just good for the mind.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. No, I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, we'll switch it up a little more. I know you mentioned something. I think I mentioned to you, Mike, a couple of weeks ago, how you'd made a comment about lost civilizations when we briefed you on the podcast early on, and you were kind of perked up at the lost civilizations, and I was like, oh wow, because I think they're boring. Not boring. I just don't have a big interest, in them.
I think for me, coming in as the bipartisan or whatever you want to call me, in my brain, it's easier for me to believe in a lost civilization than a UFO. Hands down, without a doubt.
Oh,
in
of
my mind.
course, sure. Because
right. So therefore, exactly.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm going to perk up. Therefore, I'm going to be like, oh, cool. That I could easily see that happening.
Right.
And I would think that most lost civilization type, stories would be based more in fact.
Yes.
I mean, okay,
yes.
now this one,
yes.
Atlantis was obviously, from the information that you were able to find, is a fictional tale.
Right.
Great story. But I think you're going to, as we explore more in the future, I think we're going to find a lot of lost civilizations that are absolutely real.
Of course.
Yeah.
And, we're going to find artifacts and we can explore some of that
hopefully
in the future episode.
Hopefully global warming's not real and all of mankind doesn't become a lost civilization.
Yeah, let's hope not. Let's hope not.
All right. Well,
at least not in our lifetimes.
definitely.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you never know. You see the movie Day After Tomorrow. I mean, makes you wonder, could it really, some of that happen that fast? Obviously, they got to fit that into a 2-hour movie. Right. So it's going to happen in a matter of, you can only draw that out for such a large time frame. But never know. All right. Any final comments, or you guys good?
I'm good.
All good. Appreciate it.
Yep. Cool.
Great.
Don't forget obscuredr1@gmail.com. Email us if you have any personal stories. You could see a UFO. You could have been abducted by an alien. You could have seen Bigfoot. I have a Bigfoot story for you guys too. Not tonight. Personal story. Anything. Shoot us an email. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. Much appreciated. And we will see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check back with us often for new episodes. Feel free to drop a comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Obscured Reality.